When I looked at literature, there was no literature or not a lot of literature really that spoke to the township entrepreneurial journey at a micro scale level.
Sure.
So the idea around putting together this book was, I think before the idea, it was the process in itself was very painful, like you say, a lot of sacrifice hours. But the big driver around it really was to provide someone who's running a small micro enterprise, and I think I need to emphasize this, micro enterprise, sometimes relevant for small business owners, early stage small business owners, or someone who's really thinking about getting into entrepreneurship, so that you know the basics of basics. So to me, there are things I'd ignorantly look at someone and say, but how do you not know what VAT is?
Sure.
How do you not know what an income statement is?
Where do I start as an entrepreneur in the township? I wanted to try, but I'm like, hey, Paul might just laugh at me here.
Which is, Tswana, but also with Afrikaans mixed in there, really, which genuinely just means, where do I start? And I think what we then picked up, I think in most cases, that the individuals, in most cases, get stuck at that question that paralyzes them from actually doing anything at all. They don't know where to start. And I always say to the individual, start by developing an MVP. Be developing an MVP in our view in the simplest form. Get a customer to buy at least one or two of your things. When you get one or two customers buying your products, guess what? Now you've got proof of concept. But also beyond proof of concept for the product, now you've got a customer archetype that you could then potentially start to then build up.
I'm building
so
for
that
this
yeah,
customer.
so that I'm building for this customer, so that you don't stand on platforms and say everyone's my customer. Not everyone is your customer. So I think, so we then lean on to that particular element. But we then say, once you've gone up the traction, now these are all the compliance steps that you need to take into consideration.
Welcome to the Leadership Summit of the Year. Yes, this is it. Hello, I am Dr. Mandaj Flaro, and on this week's episode of the SuperLead Podcast series, we are joined by one of South Africa's leading champions of township entrepreneurship, Bulelani Balabala. He is an entrepreneur and ecosystem builder, founder of Township Entrepreneurs Alliance, TEA. In this conversation, we explore his book, The Township Entrepreneurs Guide to Get Things Done. We unpack the real challenges facing township entrepreneurs, the mindsets and the execution required to build sustainable businesses. Bulelani, welcome back to SuperLead Podcast.
No, thank you so much for having me back.
Oh, lovely, lovely. When we had the first show, you did speak that you did talk about the fact that you were going to write a book and publish, and we said, we'll love to have you back when this is said and done. But before we get into the book, just catch me up. Since the last time we spoke, you kind of told me about your journey and the important work you're doing at TIA. I'm curious to know, how has the journey been? How many entrepreneurs are we impacting? And what have you been up to?
No, man. So I think, what a journey it's been, right?
We spoke during COVID.
Yeah,
times.
during COVID. During COVID it was online. But I think, breaking out of that, we've really just cemented our work. I think we've covered, to date, we've covered about 139 townships. 139 townships, about 20 rural communities.
Sure.
So I think our work now spans nationwide in all major townships. Oh, wow. And I think a year now we do about 9,000 to 10,000 township entrepreneurs throughout the various programs. So there's enterprise development, there's training, there's workshops where we go out, and it's part of our roadshow. Yeah. So we've been able to sink in that work. But also what we've done is that I think from COVID, we've maintained the hybrid model.
Lovely.
And then with one of our platforms being zero rated from a data perspective, so that the guys are able to participate from various parts. And the interesting thing is that we've seen guys from your Botswana, from your Zimbabwe, from your Ugandas and the sort, jumping in to participate in those engagements.
Sure.
And I think it's sort of then saying to us, maybe we must sort of look at
as
broadening
you're
through
Pan-African.
Pan-Africanness, you know. So,
Okay, maybe just tell us. I might be doing in disservice to those that didn't listen to our first podcast. What maybe a little bit about you, and then what Tia does.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Just a little bit.
I'm an entrepreneur. The founder of Township Entrepreneurs Agency, which has a foundation aspect to it called Township Entrepreneurs Alliance.
Lovely.
The company's been running now for 20 years. Started it in my mother's garage. Didn't start as what we're doing now. Started as an internet cafe. Transporting school kids, selling polony packs, cheese packs, and a number of different things, odd things to sort of get to what I deem and call purpose.
Sure.
And I think for me, when I sort of look at the journey, it's been a journey really that's solely built around community.
Okay.
I don't look at my journey as self-made. I look at it really as community, because there's always someone opening the door. There's always someone doing the introductions. There's always someone believing in this crazy vision of building. But the initial business that I built was a business that used to run under the banner IAF Brands.
Yes.
After 16 and a half years, we sold it.
Sure.
It was manufacturing. We used to manufacture aluminium and printing substrates
Yes.
for the printing industry. So we sold that. We just unbundled. We sold our client book. We sold some of the machinery and equipment we have, but kept the legal entity because for heritage sake.
Right.
And then I guess it was through that journey that the work that we do with specific township focused work with township entrepreneurs was then birthed.
Sure.
Because it was our CSI initiative.
While you were still running,
while I was still running the manufacturing business. So out of that, once it grew, that's how we were redirecting some of the capital and the funds towards impact work.
Sure.
So once I sold that, then I really sunk my teeth into formalizing the work that we do as T, so that it's not, by the way, you're just simply passion work in a corner. Now it's impact work. And I think what we now do is a couple of things: research insights, township marketing and activations. The third thing that we do is something we call enterprise supply developments. And the last one is special project management, where we facilitated grant funding from all the way from your COVID, businesses affected by your COVID, to the floods and many other things. So we've moved it from a reactionary fund into a progressive one, where we now, preempt some of the challenges, and we then now make those necessary proposals to stakeholders.
Oh, lovely. Let's take one at a time. So the research and the township activation. So you do this for large corporates?
So we do this for large corporates across the board. The research aspect as well, we do it with large corporates, but in most cases as well, we do it with academia.
Oh,
I think the last initiative we did, the first ones we did was with UNISA. Then we did another. I'm just trying to think what the university was that the team did it with, and then we've done it for a few corporates as well.
Okay.
And I think we're looking to do another. And then I think what we've then done is that instead of them having our commission, we've got a lot of data. So I think we've said to the team, let's just put an annual state of the township economy
that would be awesome.
sort of document that people can sink their teeth into. But also then as a way of opening it up to the market, so that, from a policymaker, corporate, the right people in the right places can make more informed decisions around support.
Lovely. And when do we start with this one? Because
we're kicking this off in Feb, actually. We're already gathering data, and I think our sample data pool will have, 6,000 inputs. Because what we've then done is that we've linked it to all of our programs.
Sure.
So since the beginning of the year, as part of participation, we are gathering that data, so that when we then go to market, we're not giving a sample pool of 500 and then giving it as an index for the rest of the market. At least you can give something more broader,
6,000
so
is a
that when
big
decisions
number.
are made, it's solid decisions. You can't question.
Sure, love that a lot. Tell me about the ESD work.
Sure, man. I love the ESD work. I think for me, having been someone who's also then been through the ESD pipeline, I sort of saw where the loopholes were. I think some of the challenges when I was in there, you would almost see content be regurgitated, or utilizing a one-size-fits-all model to your training and development. And I guess in the reality, founders are different, and businesses, I think in business and how they are ran are different. I think the premise and the principles of business remain the same, but I think how the founder sort of then implements it through his operations then differs. So I think for us, when I looked at that journey, I then, would ask some deep question. mean, if a corporate is spending X amount on ESD development through a third party, and it's a very large amount of money, and none of that gets turned into, maybe even if it's 20%, into technical funding or grant or support, and it's just training, that is what has contributed, in my view, to a large drop-off rate. And I think we're not saying that in this case create programs that incentivize guys to participate but garner no information. No, what you do is that you build them up in milestones, and once you reach a certain milestone, you unlock a certain thing, so that you can track that the person has been along for the journey, not just bums on seats. So I think for us, that's the approach that we take. But also uniquely, because of the work that we do in townships, we have now said we simplify learning. We look at three things. I mean, the three main things that we look at. Number one, theory, 30%, practicals, about 40%, and then the rest of it is just on the ground, where we are working in the business with the individuals, not just the founder, but with their teams.
Lovely.
Because what we've found is that what we've picked up is that there is a gap between what the founder knows and what the team knows.
Sure.
And because the team that is working in the business, and the team, I think in this case, is conservatively 2 or 3 individuals.
I see.
But the reality is that the founder's pain is that he has to do everything. But if these individuals don't know what they need to do, then it's frustration. But if they're empowered, now they're able to empower the founder and free up his time so that he can do entrepreneurial work. But what we then do is that we do that as simplified manner, because what we've understood is that a micro enterprise in South Africa's context is largely, and also small businesses, they're largely solving for month end, because majority of them don't have the retainers that carry them over. So that then puts them in a position where every single month that they're trying to build up capital to survive. So I think out of that, then what we've then done is that if content is marketing, the question is what in marketing is relevant for them now?
Sure.
So that when we train them, what we then do is that 70% must be relevant to the immediate, 30% is for the long term. And then what we've picked up is that then the adoption for that becomes easier, and you're able to apply it immediately, and the guys don't fall off.
Wow. Right. So you do this marketing and then the campaigns and and all of that work, and then you do the ESD work, and then this entrepreneur empowerment work and the programs. A bit more there. You've touched on it now, but if there was more to
No, for sure. I mean, for instance, I think one of them really that I really love is a special project implementation, because what we're saying there is that for a corporate who says we've got, case in point, and as an example, 5 million or 10 million worth of ESD funds, we say make it impactful. Right. And in most cases, what you find is say, no, we're not looking for another training program. We're in the tech space, for instance. We're in telecoms. We're in tech hardware. We'd like to redistribute some of our hardware to individuals. But what we always hold them accountable to is that it can't just be hardware to individuals who are in business. It must be hardware to individuals who actually need. So there must be a demonstrated need, and then we need to track it for about 3 months, so that we get the real-time data of, has this tool worked effectively in your business? 3 months doesn't give sufficient time to track things like metrics like employment, number of employment, but are we able to track operational growth? Are we able to track operational efficiency? Are we able to track enhancements on how you guys do things within the business? And has it led to any potential prospective leads? Then out of that, then we're able to then submit that report. I think initially when we did work in that particular manner, you found that in most cases some of the corporates we work with just want to get to the end. Get us the documents, we need to get to the end. But the more and more they understood that in actual fact, the data that they get from us is the data that they need as part of their tender pack when they are bidding for a government contract. So it's no longer just work on the side. This is the data that they then take with their teams and PR and they utilize for their thought leadership. This is the data that they're able to utilize and go when they're sitting at a World Economic Forum or Davos or wherever, and bring that element in from a socio-economic development element to say, this is what we're doing. So that's where we've always been trying to also then along the journey through the impact work, the grant fund distribution model, to then also then educate the individuals to say, it's not just a tick box exercise. It could actually be meaningful and impactful in the long term if you consider it in this manner. We'll do all the bells and whistles, the nice things, you've got the cameras, the fun things, the putting them on stage, but we then say to them, there is impact behind this, and we'll give the impact numbers so that whether you use them or not.
It's just a one story.
No, not just one story. So that's what we endeavor to do there. And then I think on the marketing side, initially that was never really our key focus, but I think how it came about is that I used to genuinely be really annoyed in seeing the same old faces on small business products or
Okay.
campaigns or platforms.
Okay.
Because in the work that I do, I've met some phenomenal guys that no one knows.
Sure.
Who do things, who do way better than most cases. I think at that time, I think it was one entrepreneur was doing way better than us as a business. But when I utilize my professional lens, he's not branded, he's not properly systemized. You know, you almost look at him as an akashin, but then you really understand that no, there's an actual model here.
Sure.
So I think shifting that perspective put me in a position where we were saying now to brands, if you're going to market, don't market top line and then force feed the information all the way down. So let us be your micro marketing partners that will ensure that the information gets to the right people. So we're not going to do food packs at a mall and people dancing around a bus. We're not going to do that. But what we're going to ensure is that if it's a campaign for entrepreneurs, and our focus is township, small micro enterprises based on the township and rural communities in the country, between the ages of 24 all the way to 40. We don't do anything else. So if you are aimed at those individuals, we'll ensure that your product is in front of them, but not just that they actually utilize your product.
Sure. Right. So just tell me, how is sort of township entrepreneurship or business uniquely different from sort of business in other sort of well-resourced spaces?
I think for me, and I love that question because I think in most cases the other side of it is, being asked, but why is it just entrepreneurship? Why don't you guys just call it Entrepreneurs Alliance? And I always say to them, I think for me uniquely it's township because some of the challenges for me in my view, because I grew up as a township entrepreneur, I felt we were uniquely township, and I'll make you 3 of my personal experiences. I think the first one, even though at some point in time in 2008, we had paid a courier company to come out and collect our parcels. I think there was about 4,800. Was a painful amount to invest in courier services. Because then what you did is you paid for stickers and they gave you stickers. Whenever you need something delivered, you whip it on a sticker, you package and you call them to come pick up. None of them would come out into Tembisa. We had
the courier company.
They would not come out into Tembisa because of fear of safety. We would get on a taxi, about 20 to 30 minutes, get to Kempton Park CBD, meet them at some robot, they pick up, and then they leave. And the second thing was from an employment perspective. The biggest debate I used to always have when hiring people was, I would rather work for retail X, Y, and Z as a teller because I'll get 3,500 Rand, and because they are big and they are branded, as opposed to double the amount that they would have gotten from us. Because, and also then it was met with imagine working down the road from home. People are not going to take me serious. So, when I look at that, it's
So you got a supply chain problem, you got a talent problem. Okay, another one.
And then I think for me was an infrastructure one.
Okay.
I think at the time in 2005, when we applied for internet, I think we were one of the first. In actual fact, I don't know if that call center agent was telling the truth or not, but she said, you're the first in the area to apply for ADSL.
Oh, wow.
It was in the early days of ADSL.
Sure.
It took the infrastructure company about, 20 months to 24 months to install the infrastructure, but still then became a problem with other things, cable theft and so on and so forth. So that for me is not necessarily to say we are unique from everybody else, but I look at those as unique challenges that are within the space. So when we say we are Township Entrepreneurs Agency and we've got to focus specifically on that, is to say, what are the problems that are faced by these individuals, whether external socioeconomic impact or internal mindset shifts that need to happen in the founder that they need to then move away from, so that they're able to then enhance their real capabilities and their real power. So I think that then becomes then our very key focus because of those experiences.
Sure, I'm with you. Oftentimes in conversations and consulting work, I find that most of these big corporates, they want to serve entrepreneurs. They want to serve township entrepreneurs. The telcos, they want to build products and serve that community of entrepreneurs. The banks, the insurance, but they don't seem to be making the kind of difference they anticipate.
No, they don't. And I think I'll make you an example of at the time was a banking institution that I think did a good job. What they then did is, through their marketing team, they understood a couple of things. We are marketing as professionals, but want the message to get to this SME market. So it was a whole entire funnel. Then they added the E, then they added the micro enterprise. So it was micro, small, medium businesses. But what they then did out of that is that they then broke up and they asked themselves a key question. Who are the players that are entrenched on the ground that we can plug into? Not build a new thing, plug into as an enabler so that you are then able to reach into the market. So then we then enabled them from a 0 to 1 million perspective.
Sure.
Then they got another one from a 2 million to so forth, so on and so forth. And out of that, what you then found is that you've got individuals converged around the country learning but at different levels and accessing development and support. And then you then create these platforms where all of them meet in one spot. The ones who would never meet, the ones who are medium-sized businesses get to then connect in that one connect, but then the rest of it is just learning across the board.
Sure.
And then what that meant for me when I looked at that, it was an amazing distribution model, because it meant that whatever you launched above the line landed in the hands, on the palms of the right people, because you're operating through the right sort of channels.
Sure.
So I think for me, I look at that as a case in point of a model that worked. But in sometimes I think models that don't work it's like I look at sometimes what we are asked to do, like immersions and townships.
Yes.
And I always say to the guys, it's not an excursion or a sightseeing activity. So don't look out the window. Don't do any of that stuff.
Good cameras and all
don't so genuinely get into the place and want to learn.
Sure.
That's all you do. Just genuinely get into the place and want to learn. And I think when you then take on that disposition of wanting to learn, I always say to them, you will never learn up until you shift your mindset. And part of them shifting their mindset is them realizing that in actual fact, they might be the ones who are actually informal. Because I think when you there's one big debate that's happening around the country, that's been happening for years, the conversation around being formalization on government side, formalization is registering a CIPC, certain departments formalization is having the right sort of compliance documents so that you can enter mainstream procurement opportunities. And certain corporates as well, then formalization then becomes important to me, because the only way you can use our accounting system is if you are registered and I've got this document and this document, then your access. But those things then become barriers for them. What I always say to these individuals is to say, if the compliance doesn't impact health, doesn't impact financial risk, doesn't impact any auditing trails, then you can lax them, get the people in, and once they're in, measure them over a 30-day period and give that then as a provisional approvals, give that then to them as an opportunity for them to then participate in.
Instead of just making this documentation a barrier almost immediately.
No, you can't. I'll make you an example. I think we worked with one institution, and this was then an entrepreneurial program. But the big heart of the entrepreneurial program, public facing, was a competition, pitching competition of sorts. Coming in, they had already ran it. They had about 2,800 entries. Of the 2,800, they now wanted someone who will then filter, build the adjudication process and all that stuff. So we then built that in. But the interesting factor is that when we got that, they had already started. So they gave us the pile of the rejected. Now, in the rejected pile are individuals who are asked questions like, tell us about your business, what makes you different from everybody else. So what was clear there is that they failed to articulate themselves. So these usual long-winded and intellectual answers were met with, no, we are the best in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Being the best in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the reason why we're unique in the market is because customers love 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's one-liners, as opposed to the intellectual, philosophical. But then you then go to the second page, and the second page really was about the numbers. So now when you dig into the numbers, the one pile wax lyrical. Yes. On the other side, the numbers don't make any sense. On the other side, these ones can't articulate, but they know the business.
They've got the numbers.
The numbers make genuine sense. So which is why then we looked at that and we looked at that as a learning experience to say, go deeper. Don't exclude on the base of the fact that
some of the superficial things.
No.
Do you have this document, etc., etc.
Yeah, don't exclude on the base that they don't talk like you. Go deeper into understanding how do they actually communicate before you rule out.
Excellent.
Out of that, I think the winner of that particular program was an individual. I think he didn't win, but the lady who won maybe had a 68 million rand take-up deal. He had her own, I think, vegetation seeds registered, had this community, I think vegetable growing sort of platform that utilized the power of community, people growing in their backyards, giving them to her, selling back, buying her seeds, and then she would deliver to the big wholesalers. But out of that, this young individual who actually was the one who sparked that whole debate, ran a 6 meter by 4 meter Mkuku, where zinc container in Alexander was making anywhere on average about, I think about 480 to about 580,000 rand a month on a 38% net profit.
Wow.
But the interesting thing there, and I think when I share the story, I get a lot of flack, because it's impossible. How does he make more money than us? Because we're professionals. But the other side of this, the interesting thing that he had done is that he understood a couple of things. So his menu was broken up into 3. The first part of the menu was for the township because it was price sensitive. So he lowered the price and also then lowered what you get inside there. The second aspect of it was selling to individuals who grew up in townships from wherever, who work in Sandton. So he will come all the way to Sandton and deliver.
Wow.
So he would come to where, like the office park that we are, knock on doors and ask the guys, do you want these things?
Sure.
If you want order here a day before, by this time we'll come and deliver.
Lovely.
Made a lot of money there. And then he then also then started to aggregate through large corporates who wanted to incorporate township cuisine as part of their marketing, as part of their corporate events and so on. So they found a market there. So that's why I always say to the guys that you are township by location, but the location should not limit you. Look at opportunities outside of, because you find that in his case, his location makes him genuinely unique, as opposed to moving to a Sentinel or wherever. But what he's then done is that he's seen customers way beyond where he is.
Beautiful. Right. Okay. Wow, this is good. So you wrote a book called The Township Entrepreneurs Guide to Getting Things Done. The process of writing a book is painful and it's long and all of that. Why did you have to go through that process?
So, I think it was the initial debates around writing. And I remember, I think when we spoke, you were like, no, write it. I was like, this thing is painful. And you're like, no, just write it. And I think for me, it was very painful. But it also came from the fact that when I looked at literature, there was no literature, or not a lot of literature really, that spoke to the township entrepreneurial journey at a micro scale level.
Sure.
So the idea around putting together this book was, I think before the idea, it was, the process in itself was very painful, like you say, a lot of sacrifice hours. But the big driver around it really was to provide someone who's running a small micro enterprise, and I think I need to emphasize this, micro enterprise, sometimes relevant for small business owners, early stage small business owners, or someone who's really thinking about getting into entrepreneurship, so that you know the basics of basics.
Excellent.
So to me, there are things I'd ignorantly look at someone and say, but how do you not know what VAT is?
Sure.
How do you not know what an income statement is? How do you not know, what your capex amounts, or how do you not know basic things? But there's a large pool of individuals or micro enterprises who then don't know those things. Because think about it this way: 60% of individuals who go into business by virtue of, I didn't get a job, or I was amazing as a technician wherever I went. And out of that, what they don't uniquely have is they don't uniquely have all the other skills, or the right model with this, accompanied by the skills to actually run and operate a business. So what I'm great at making bread and selling that one loaf of bread. The issue is now when I've got 30 people who like that one loaf of bread and I need to now supply 30 loaves of bread. I don't have a model for scale. I don't know what that then looks like. So they end up falling over themselves. So I think that for me, then the idea was, make it simple, make it a guide. Whatever technical terms, simplify them with other graphs, with numbers, so that it's literally a plug and play. It's a read you can read in less than 2 or 3 days, if you are attentive. And then you can also then go back from a referencing perspective, so that you are able to then garner the knowledge to navigate.
Oh, lovely. The first thing that struck me is the table of contents. Do you want to just talk about how you laid out the table of contents, just to wake one up? You're like, okay.
No, but I think for me, we looked at the table of contents. Obviously, the table of contents is an index, right, to what you would experience in the book. But we then said, no, but let this be, if it lands in the hands of a professional. And quite interesting, there have been a lot of professionals, different races, different race groups who've asked for the book. And I think quite interesting, we then said, well, let it be an immersive experience without even going to the township.
Oh,
so that now
nice.
you start to ask yourself the deep question, what is Kenakara? what is Ova? Which would internally be where you are. Then you talk about Zaga.
Yes, like the finance chapter.
Say, that's the finance chapter. And then what we then had, I think there are three main things that we have there. Number one, we try and break it up into English so that you understand what it means. We keep it in natural township slang, but try and break it up into different township dialects. Then the other thing is a consistent theme, whether whatever community or township rural community, you come from, other signs. Which are the signs we would uniquely stop a taxi in? So as you page through the book, there'd be these signs. And what we naturally saying is that this is the sign you've just landed here. So eat whatever's here. Now you need to get onto another taxi, go to the next chapter and consume whatever it is that you have there. So it becomes this beautiful experience. And then I think from our side as well, when I look at that is, it goes back to what we initially want to do, I think, in the month of July this year. So when we launched the book, we didn't do a book launch. I said to the team, let's not do a book launch.
Right.
Let's do the book launch a year in so that we do it the other way around. And I think the logic behind that, so that we tell the story of what it did. Okay. As opposed to the story of what it will do.
I see.
Because now we would have linked it to our ESD programs and bring these amazing entrepreneurs to tell the story. So in one aspect is storytelling, the other aspect is impact, and then the other aspect of it is what are the learnings that are in there. Sure. Then it changes the tune a little bit, but that's just us in our crazy.
Oh, love the creativity. Love it. So maybe we can just step into a few of these this chapter. So let's talk about the first one around sort of setting your mindset. And so I will read the English and then you can start with lest I expose myself.
No, so I think that particular one, I think it's Vulikanda.
Yes,
which really means just open up your mind, right? Really there, I think for me, at the very heart of it is you can't embark on this journey without disrupting your level of thinking. Sure. Which is why when we host trainings in townships, we ensure that the hall is not the same hall that you came to for the funeral, for the burial, for the graduation, for your daughter's party, or whatsoever, because communal halls are basically utilized for anything. We transform them so that it must look better. And I always say to the team, it must look better than anything you've attended in Sandton as a marker. So that when that individual leaves his house, drags his feet and attends this thing as another thing. When he steps in, it almost then commands a level of respect. It commands his attention. I think that's what mindset is for me. Because I think the reality of it is you don't know what you don't know. But also what you actually know, when the assumptions you've made about what you know or what you think you know are the things that actually block us from learning anything new. So what we then disruptively do, I think what we're trying to do in that chapter is to do two things. Give you the anecdotes of some of the things that might be blocking you from opening up your mindset, and then give you practical steps of harnessing and broadening your mindset.
Lovely. We did one leadership summit, and I didn't understand this, but it's sort of landed now. We did our best to make sure that great venue, everything worked well, etc. And this one person comes afterwards and say, I feel respected.
Yeah.
So I go, for all the things you can take away from a whole day of speeches and discussions and music, the biggest feeling was I feel like I'm respected.
Yeah.
And I imagine you by kind of doing all this work, making sure that it's not like a funeral kind of setup, you're already even respecting that entrepreneur.
No, for me, I think the respect is important. And I think, which is why I think in the second book that I'm painfully writing.
You're writing another one. We're just starting this one.
Very painful, But I think in that one, we talk about trust. And I think that's more for corporates. And what is the makeup of the township? Okay. What makes the township what the township is? And then we talk, I think trust then becomes an important thing. Because think about it this way, we trade on trust. Yes. I think I may always make an example with, I think what my mother or my uncle would say. It doesn't matter how much money you have. As long as you disrespect me, I don't care. I will not get on your car. I'd rather walk back home.
Wow.
Because my pride is everything that I have. So for me to trade with you and to commune with you, there needs to be a level of trust that I have, that you actually see me for who I am and you trust me. And so that you see me for who I am and you garner and show me the respect that I actually deserve. And if I can't get the respect from you, then there is no trust. And if there's no trust, genuinely, there's no trade. That is how we traded. And I think out of that, the beautiful thing is that it then took away from this transactional culture, which I think in my view is Western, that we then adopted. Because when you traded with someone, you genuinely understood them, but now it's very transactional. So I think going back to those roots then puts us in a position where it's person before money.
Oh, wow. Right. So this is not in my notes, but I'm just curious, especially given where we are in the country and the activities now. There's a lot of conversation around most of the entrepreneurship activities happening in the township. It's from foreign citizens. And you're on the ground. I'm curious to just hear your thoughts on immigration and entrepreneurship and the township and the movements we're seeing through strikes, etc.
Yeah. No, man, I think for me, I look at I look at strikes in themselves, firstly. Okay. I mean, I think in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, the first quarter of 2004, there was about 2,700 strikes.
Sure.
So that then just shows you already we've got a culture of responding in a certain manner because of a leadership that has said we'll only listen to you when you respond in a certain manner.
Sure.
The second key aspect is what we're talking about now, and I think maybe to single it out, you look at puzzle shops, for instance. I mean, growing up, we had puzzle shops that were reliable, that were trusted. But also, beyond just as puzzle shop, there's no township that you'll go into in the country where there is no deserted industrial park. Yes. I'm not talking about just shopping strips, which is the plethora of, but the industrial parks all over the country, who in their heydays used to manufacture the most amazing products, and they redistributed to even suburban the companies or urban businesses and the sort. But I think the biggest challenge there is what we're trying to address with the book is if you don't systemize, then it goes back to that thing where we stand over someone's grave and we said he left with these businesses. He didn't intend to live with these businesses, but he could not but also he could not develop the right systems and processes. But also there's the other aspect that is the reality, right? And I think I'll break it up into 5. There's the other aspect that is the reality that says a young individual who was my age when I was younger, who's younger than me, if you tell him to wash people's cars or to open up his puzzle shop, there's an element of what are people going to say?
Sure.
Because I want a business that looks like X, Y, and Z, and I want a business that's dignified. But when you sort of think about money is not a respecter of your office or how you get it. Money is a respecter of the singular principles. Put in the hard work, add value, I'll come.
Sure.
And do that consistently, and I'll continue to come.
Sure.
So, but however, the ego is what stands in the way. So one of the key things that we always then try to do, especially when we work in a program where it's young individuals, 18 to 20, to 24 to 22, is to say to them, leave the ego at the door.
Sure.
And I'll make you an example. There's a young individual from Orange Farm. He used to, at the height of COVID, he got retrenched as a security guard. He was making, I think, between 6,000 and 7,000, working 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, I think 3 days off, so on and so forth, interchangeably. Gets retrenched, he's got a daughter, he's a present dad, he's no longer with the partner, but still wants to contribute effectively. And all the gentlemen gives him an idea, says, why don't you watch people's bins? He thinks nothing of it. Wow. He thinks nothing of it. I think a month in, he starts washing people's bins. Then he starts washing them. And today he washes them only on a Thursday, makes 4,000 Rand a week. He washes 80 bins, he charges 50 Rand a bin. There's 60,000 Rand a month. Without the cost of having to leave that immediate community. But then when you think about some of the things in between, number one is there's definitely municipality or the local government is sending trucks to collect the bins. So there's no issue really there when you think about it. Number two, he then identified an infrastructural issue that he doesn't have a place to go wash these bins. He can't afford it. Sure. But the local car wash opens up at 8 or 9 o'clock in the township. Yeah. But their first customers usually come at 12.
Yes.
So he collects the bins and washes them at the infrastructure with the equipment by himself at the car wash, and then he then dries them up and then he takes them back to where they. The other thing that in our conversation that he couldn't articulate but I could pick up is that he then in his operation understood a key thing. he lives in the community and is trusted. Majority of households are female-headed.
Sure.
In most cases in townships, they are headed by older mothers or abokoko, which then in turn means that there's none of those individuals who are going to let a stranger come in.
Sure.
And most of these individuals are looking either after their grandkids or the younger kids who have no interest in washing the bin. So then he then found a sweet spot.
Lovely.
But you ask him, why aren't other young individuals joining in? He says they'd never be caught dead washing a bin, but don't they need the opportunity? They do, they're hungry, they're thinking of doing crime. You see then how ego stands in the way of getting to where you need to go. And then the fourth bit for me is the element around regulation really in itself. Because I think the big part of the current conversation that's going on is to say, but you're not even regulating these individuals who are here. You don't even know if they've got health and safety documentation and certificates. And then there are groupings of them who actually have the documents. But I think at the moment there's a conflation of we are frustrated by them, we are frustrated by you, and then it's the socioeconomic impact frustration of we don't have enough jobs on top of this, and you're doing this and you're doing that. So as a result, the immediate is remove everyone so that you create opportunities for us. But the reality of that is that then creates a vacuum, and life allows for no vacuum. So the most important key thing for me, especially even at the height of it 2 or 3 years ago, I was saying to government, start with the developmental initiatives now, so that you do not become a reactionary leadership, but you are able to preempt where people are right now. So if we've got a youth unemployment, like the numbers just came out a couple of days ago, if you've got youth unemployment numbers now sitting at 39 or 38%, we should not start jumping when young individuals start burning everything around there. We should start to look at what are some of the support interventions that we could bring in, not to necessarily put them in the market to go get jobs. Because every time we look at the indexes, large corporation X, Y, and Z is retrenching X amount of individuals. But what can we do to put them in a place where they then start to then build a hustle? Not a business, but a hustle. If that hustle turns into a job, great. If it turns into a business, great. But you know what we've done? We've taken the attention of a young individual with all its energy away from illicit activity into something productive. So I really think for me, the only genuine manner in which we're going to harness the township economy also then in then locking in and also then ensuring that our people are supported is doing the fifth thing. Educating our consumers who live in the township about being intentional buyers. Because I think the reality of it as well is that you're going to have 500 more shops open up that are South African run, but is the South African intentional about where they spend their money? Or are they working to only get to a point where they have 1,000 rand for them to support their local business? Because that level of intentionality then puts them in an advantageous position for them to then garner the support that they need. So I think for me, we need to do that. Leave the ego, educate, make it practical, govern with the right regulations, unlock in the market so that you then do not have unfair competition that happens in the market, protect it from a government perspective, ensure that the community and the consumer is educated about intentional buying, and that then for me becomes, I think in my view, a start to a formula of some sort.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Wow, that's just excellent. So maybe a few more minutes to pick one of the chapters from the book. We kind of took an off-ramp there, but I thought the insights were fantastic. So, you know, where do I start as an entrepreneur in the township?
Yeah, Kitomava.
I wanted to try, but I'm like, hey, Paul might just laugh at me here.
Kitomava, you know, which is, Tswana, but also with Afrikaans mixed in there, really, which genuinely just means, where do I start? And I think what we then picked up, I think in most cases, is that the individuals, in most cases, get stuck at that question that paralyzes them from actually doing anything at all. They don't know where to start. And I always say to the individual, start by developing an MVP. Be developing an MVP in our view in the simplest form. Get a customer to buy at least 1 or 2 of your things. When you get 1 or 2 customers buying your products, guess what? Now you've got proof of concept. But also beyond proof of concept for the product, now you've got a customer archetype that you could then potentially start to then build up.
I'm building
so
for
that,
this
yeah,
customer.
so that I'm building for this customer, so that you don't stand on platforms and say, everyone's my customer. You know, not everyone is your customer. So I think, so we then lean on to that particular element. But we then say, once you've gone at the traction, now these are all the compliance steps that you need to take into consideration. CIPC, triple BE certificates, your affidavit that you need to get. Do you need a bank account or not? And if so, what type do you need? What sort of registration do you need from a company and corporation perspective? So we then almost walk them through those basic steps so that this individual understands that build this MVP, get a customer archetype, and build and then rebuild whatever the product groupings will be for the particular market, and then look at what are all the steps that I need to then ensure that I start trading in the right effective manner. But the most important thing is for them to move.
You know, this Kitoma VAR.
Yeah, you got it.
Tavi, I've got
I love
it. No, it's a much bigger problem than sort of for township entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because I also find even in the most educated people, it gets worse because now they've done MBAs, they've been in corporate, they've studied all manner of things. Now they've got 1,000 more ideas to start. Today they're thinking about this, tomorrow is that. And then 15 years later, they haven't started.
Yeah, still ideating.
Yes, they just because now they're listening to us. They're like, oh, maybe I can do something in the township, and then they go somewhere else, and then they attend another workshop, and then you like 6 years ago you wanted to start, and here you are still.
I think for me, there's a lot then to be said there about starting but being focused.
Right.
Because for me, I think the other part of this, and just a short bit, for me, the other part of this really is the conversation that I always have these micro enterprises about not losing focus. But the biggest cry is, but what I love is not making me the money I want.
Yes. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
And now I'm going to start a security company because the opportunity is there. Then I'm going to try a tech company. Then I'm going to start a recruitment company and all these things. And really just all of your attention is broken up because it all needs you and you don't have the right personnel or the systems. And so I always say to the guys, understand the value chain of your industry.
Sure.
So for instance, if you understand the value chain and you wanted to open, let's say for instance, you wanted to open a fuel station and you understood the whole entire value chain that makes that industry tick, from the fuel merchants to the guys who clean out the grease for specialized chemical, to the guys who supply the uniform, to the training guys who then train the staff, to the machinery, to the servicing, to the kiosk and the sorts. There's a whole entire value chain. Then I ask a singular question. If you understand the value chain, where is the low end of the value chain where you can enter for that particular industry?
Beautiful.
Because there's an aspect in the market where you are able to raise capital without any annuity income, without any security capital, or without any potential security against the funding, where you're able to raise it because you've built this intellectual mass that you're able to garner and show through the fact that you've got the experience in that industry and you know what takes. But also the beautiful thing is that you're able to then grow gradually. And the funder has got a bigger appetite of wanting to give you his 2 million because he knows that you spent all of your days, cleaning off the grease. Yes, it seems like you made little money, but you understand and hear the customers complaining. You see the different cars that are pulling up to the different service stations. You see all the things that make it tick indirectly because you're hanging around. And I think the one key saying that I've always loved around this is, you hang around the barbershop long enough, you end up getting a haircut.
That is a beautiful place to pause our conversation. So now, where do people find this fantastic guide, the Township Entrepreneurs Guide to get things done?
No, man, you can get the book. You go on our website, you can get the book. We also then listed on Take-A-Lot as well. You can get the book on there as well. But you can also then just reach us, because I think our website also then www.bulelani.co.za has got it's a simple shop. You can go on there, buy as much as you want. If you want bulk orders, our details are there. Just send us an email. We'll give you a great rate.
Lovely.
Thank you.
And I imagine even corporates, with some of the work that they do with ESD, they can sort of buy to empower the SMEs that they work with.
No, definitely. I think for me, some corporates have quite a few in actual fact have bought through the ESD. Some have bought for the employees to go give to their children, to go give to their brothers and sisters and the sort.
Lovely.
So I think if you're such a corporate, man, get in touch with us. Let's do something meaningful, because it's cheaper than an ESD program, but it doesn't replace. It just starts the conversation so that support initiative that will go through whatever partners you work with, at least have a foundational base so that they can land on.
Lovely, Bulelani, as usual. Super insightful. Love the passion, love the energy. Love the work that you're doing. Thank you so much
No,
for
Doc,
gracing
thank you
us
so much,
here
man. I
at the
appreciate
studio.
you very, very much.
We have Bulelani in studio, everybody. What a
Thank you so much,
conversation.
Doc. I
Oh, thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.